Hey, nobody's out there, right? Good. Dude, I might not be able to... Well, what do I say? This isn't really, like, gratifying anymore. Like, I'm sitting here, it's sunset, like, this fucking sunset. 5 p.m. is, like... 5 p.m. to 7 is, like, really, like, awful. And, like, I'm sitting here, I feel like there's some sort of feeling where, like, this is not really, like, enough anymore. Like, I want to do art, and I said all this stuff about, like, capacity for abstract thought. What am I trying to say? Just, this used to be, like, gratifying enough, and I think I've just gotten too old for it, where it's just, like... I don't know. I feel like just getting a job might even be like more fun. This almost I've done so much drawing to no avail, and I've done this so much that like it's not really like firing me up. And so I can say that now. Even if I say that, it doesn't mean I'll get it. I mean, somebody has to hire me to get a job, so maybe no one will even hire me. But there's just kind of this feeling where it's like I don't really want to do this anymore. What?
3 or 4 times.
Oh, no. Sometimes when I go to sleep every night, the ringer goes off.
Anyway, my car wouldn't start.
Okay.
I finally got somebody to help me call AAA because I can't, I have to have glasses.
Okay.
And it was a big mess. The guy finally came, started the car for me. I got home, but I have to get in touch with Traz, or whatever his name is, over there. Because apparently my battery's bad. And it's under warranty. So.
Okay.
Okay. So tomorrow morning, I definitely need your car. Is that all right?
Sure.
Morning until my physical therapy is close to noon. It's a half-hour appointment, then I'll come home. That'll be it.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, it's basically come to my attention that like the only people watching this are like I don't know. Most of the people watching this are just kind of troll people who like they don't even wish me well. They're like negative people. They're like not friendly. Anyway, so it kind of I guess it's kind of like made it hard. I always feel like I'm talking to some sort of like supportive people, but it seems like not really the case, and so that's not so fun. But it's not even just that. It's just I think it's just I'm too old for it. And now, as I sit here, I imagine to myself, like, maybe if I get a job, then I could, like, I'm not going to get a nose job, but maybe if I get dermal filler and Botox and I grow my hair out, I can get a girlfriend. Now, if I get a girlfriend, I know I say all this stuff on here where I say like, like I don't want to be with an overweight ethnic chick, single mom, or Asian lady, but I just say that kind of like in like a virtual world. I don't know, what am I trying to say? Just realistically, like when I dated, that was mostly almost all the women I dated, they were overweight ethnic chicks. I just always say that because it seems like if life was a simulation, it's like that's who I'm supposed to be with. And so if I date, I was in my prime back then, and it wasn't very often. Like really, nobody cares. It's just record. In my whole life, I was only with 10 different women my whole life, so it wasn't even really. And it was all just overweight ethnic chicks, single mom. Actually, there were four white chicks. But anyway, get the point. Nobody was like. Actually, nobody cares. I have to remember this in my head. Velena, when I dated Velena, she really was like a model. She was like, I think you could say she was like officially hot. So anyway, in my prime, I did date officially a hot woman, but I get the sense she just wanted me to pay for her. Anyway, long story short, you know, there's some kind of feeling where my intuition is basically saying like, this isn't really cool anymore. I don't think it was ever cool, but it's not like gratifying. There's some kind of feeling like maybe life would be better if I just got a job and got a girlfriend. Now, I don't necessarily think getting a job and having a girlfriend are synonymous, but you know, if I get a job, I could get dermal filler and Botox, and just getting a job feels kind of like, it almost feels like it would be like more fun at this point. Like, I feel like there's this the fucking like sunset. I just can't stress enough like how who would have thought that just the setting of the sun from 5 to 7 would become such a struggle. Nobody cares, but just for record, I'm always kind of like just actually basically I'm realizing that like probably getting a job and probably getting a girlfriend is going to be more rewarding to me, because I seem to be making these videos because I want like communication. I can't stand, there's like this choking like lonely feeling, and it's not really this like making these videos, it used to sort of like appease that, and I guess I could just do it for the rest of my life. And so if I can't get a girlfriend or can't get any job, I probably will just do this for the rest of my life. But if I can I don't know, I feel like I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, if I could get any kind of job, even like Safeway bagger, grocery store, you know, stock the shelves kind of thing, I'm almost thinking like even that, just to be up and out in the world and among humans, is probably like basically like right now at 5 o'clock I'm sitting here going, I don't know how to explain it, this is like really pathetic. I guess I'm pathetic, but like I should acknowledge this because it seems to just be sort of getting worse. It's just at like from like 5 to 7, even if I do burpees, like I used to do burpees every hour and it used to sort of chase away this feeling. But now if at sunset, no matter how much even if I go running, it feels like my bones are crying. Like it feels like my bones are just like crying. And so that's not good. And so I would imagine that like some of it is just I'm looking at my face and just being like, dude, my looks are like completely gone. And I used to be like a cute guy. What's the point? Just there's kind of like some sort of sinking feeling like, fuck, like I better it's not like I better, but it's, there's kind of a feeling, or it's like it used to be like being alone was like freedom is kind of good. Now there's kind of a feeling like shit, like I don't think it's necessarily better anymore. And it doesn't even feel more fun anymore. There's kind of a feeling like, I don't know, maybe it's okay, but what do you think, Sean? I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm just every time I make these videos, it's just because like the choking the fucking loneliness is driving me crazy. I guess it's not it's like I have to acknowledge it's not just totally loneliness, because my dad's here. Like if I was lonely, I could go talk to my dad. What is it? It's you know, it's girlfriend. I guess I've used this as like a substitute for a girlfriend. There was something inside of me where I said, "Oh, just stay here and do art," and just say like, "Oh, you know, if you keep talking on here, you can talk to this thing like it's a confidant." It's just trolls listening to me, like mocking me, and so basically this is like a poor substitute for like a girlfriend. I'm not looking at like Jocko as like a girlfriend, but I do sort of, it's kind of like, there was kind of like this like weird feeling like if I stay on live stream, there could be women on the other side of this. And so that's kind of like enough to just be, I can just keep saying later, but meanwhile I just want to procrastinate and do art. But there's kind of a feeling like maybe, I don't know, what do I think? Well, I think to myself, maybe getting any girlfriend would be better. Like, and I'm not looking for it on this forum because I'm not doing that. But I'm basically I'm thinking out loud, like, yeah, maybe I should start Tinder and some dating site and just talk to people. Just basically like just totally lower my standards and just realize that like I'm an old ugly person also, and so talk to old ugly people who are around my age, and then just talk to them on Zoom and see if anybody clicks with them, and just try not to get totally victimized or something. What do you think, Sean? just that's what I should do that. I should probably do that. Nobody's listening, right? I should, let's say no one's listening, but there's always this phenomenon. Even when I did dating like 15 years ago, the thing in the online dating was always like this. It was always like, oh, like I'll lower my standards to this, and then it's like even lower than that. Like whatever I think in terms of like, oh, maybe like I'm willing to go for this. It's like lower than that. Whatever it is, that was always how dating always went. Is like, maybe if I really try, I might be able to settle for that person. It's like even lower than that person. That's how it always went, and that's how it's gonna go now too. Is like I'm gonna think to myself like, okay, like I'll settle for the overweight ethnic chick or a single mom, and then it's like even worse, like just that person that you thought like maybe if I have a few drinks, she doesn't even like you, and then it's like somebody who's like this person likes you, and I'm like, what? Like she's gonna have like a scarred face, and like her eyeball is gonna be up in her head or something, and then I'm gonna go, I could never be with her, and there's gonna be a little voice in my head that says, look again, Sean, look again, and you want to reconsider? And I'll be like, oh no, but just right now there's a little voice in my head that says, what if it's a man? What if there's a man that says like, I'm the only one that likes you? I'll be like, I can't go with a man. I could never go with a man because it's just nobody's listening, right? But just a man is like a hard, dry barren wood person. I'll never totally understand homosexuality, because even in the time that I did jiu-jitsu, like even when you're rolling with men, it just doesn't make sense. You look at you deal with a man, and a man in jiu-jitsu is basically, this is a barren, like hard wood person. They're like a desert. You can't plant anything in them. Even a woman, if she's like an older woman, there's kind of like that gushy sort of like, they're life-affirming, welcoming, accepting places to plant life that are full of love, and you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. They just feel like fertile pastures or something. They feel like life. Any woman, they just feel like, if there's kind of a feeling, you could plant life in this place, and men just feel like these dry, barren wood desert people, where it's like they're kind of like hard, dead wood people. All of them. Doesn't matter how Jocko, anybody, doesn't matter how cool they are, doesn't matter how, even if it was a young, beautiful man, there's kind of a feeling like you can't plant life here. These are like dead end, barren, hard wood people. And so it'll totally never make sense to me as to why anybody would ever be attracted to a man. What's the point, Sean? But I know that if I think right now I'm gonna go, I don't know, what am I gonna do? I think I'm gonna go walk around or something like that. I'm gonna start a Tinder account. Now, I was just saying this other thing where like, I was saying like, if you're kind of a stupid person and you don't have a high capacity for abstract thought, if you're making a decision, you should have like a lot of whys around it. So I'm saying like, well, why do a Tinder account? Because I can't stand this like lonely feeling anymore. Like there's just kind of like there's just kind of this like level of like lonely, isolated doom that's just too much. It's basically like I'm up to my neck in like lonely, no one cares, isolated doom. And it used to be that like just live streaming and doing burpees and listening to Jocko and doing art kind of like got my head like above a dangerous level of like lonely doom. And now the doom is just fucking like, all right, like it's getting kind of it feels like it's getting to the point where really being around any woman at all where there was some connection and some sort of like feeling of like lovey-dovey, any kind of lovey-dovey, like we like each other, it almost attraction doesn't even really matter. It's just like any sort of connection of like, I accept you, you accept me, lovey-dovey, you know what I mean? That's kind of like that's gonna probably be better than just then what, Sean? Then just fucking sunset after sunset after sunset after sunset after sunset after sunset after sunset of just drawing and cold, desert, barren, lonely, no one cares. dude. Anyway, no one cares, but just it's not like funny anymore. It wasn't funny like 4 years ago. It wasn't funny like 5 years ago. It wasn't really cool like 8 years ago. But it's like really like not good now. It's like a feeling of like, oh shit. It really feels like that. It feels like up to my neck. It feels like the river is kind of getting like, oh shit, like I'm kind of in trouble here. Like I better do something. Don't do it, Sean. Don't go to the black hole. Let me just say this one thing. I just what do you want to say, Sean? What kind of woman is going to want to be with some panicky middle-aged gray-haired guy who's always freaking out about life and death? I can get it together, but let me just talk for a second to it is really, I have to admit, it's really scary to lose what you have. I mean, I don't know if that applies to everybody, but I'm really realizing like, oh, like I'm just gonna lose. I've like been losing my looks for like a long time, and you could just end up with like no looks at all anymore. Like you could just kind of lose anything about you that was likable, and then you'd be like, oh my god, like I'm like a shell of a human being. What's the point, Sean? What do I got for that would be appealing to any female, no matter how old, no matter how overweight, no matter how what? I don't know. I got a good work ethic. I'm generally good-hearted. I'm not gonna do anything really backstabby or anything like that. But I get a lot of bad aspects. But I don't know. I think I can keep it together, clean up my act a little bit. What do you think? Worth a try. Anyway, I'm not holding out hope for it. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go walk around town and I'm gonna go start a Tinder account, and then I'm just gonna try to do a bunch of Zoom meetings with just any people and just see like any females and see like, is there any connection at all? And if it was anything like the past, it's gonna be like a lot of swinging and missing, and just assume like 100 interactions of some sort, and like 3 to 5 like maybe, and then like 1 like, hey, I actually like you and you like me. What do you think, Sean? I'm trying to think like what would I even I'm trying to think what would I even do? What do I even like to do? I don't know, but just this feeling is like, this feeling is bad. There's like this sinking like gulp in my throat, sunset, like it's some kind of animalistic thing. I think it's a combination of just realizing like my parents are so old, I'm so unemployed, I'm so disconnected, that just there's like some sort of like thing just saying like, hey Sean, like you better find some connection to people in the world or something like that. There's some sort of like, it's like an animalistic, like intuitive thing that just, it's not even like a why thing. Like I was saying, like logically, like why? This is just some sort of like feeling it's a literal feeling in my esophagus, to my heart, to my chest, that feels like it's crying. I feel like my chest is crying. As the sun is setting, it feels like my bones are crying. It's like, this is getting kind of worse. What's the point? Well, I mean, I'm sure I can like endure it. I'm not gonna like, well, I don't know, maybe I'll start crying like I was crying yesterday. Whatever it is, it's kind of like, I'm gonna have to like face some stuff. Oh God, oh God. You see what happens? You see what happens if you wait too long? Like, I'll be fine. You know, what just came to mind. I look like quintessential white trash. Like there's this Beavis and Butthead. There's this Beavis and Butthead show where there's this like phone sex lady, and there's some guy in like a tank top who actually looks like me right now. He's like got like a cigarette and some frumpy, I don't know, skinny like meth addict thing going on. And then there's this lady with like curlers, and like it's gonna be something like, I don't know, that's kind of what I see is like some trailer in like New Mexico, and like lady with like rollers in her hair and like cigarette, like, and she's gonna go, rub my feet, you pansy ass, and I'll be like, oh God. This is, it's gonna be something like that. It's gonna be something bad. Come on, Sean, you gotta be more positive. Well, I mean, basically, like, if I'm not at all into her at all, and she's not at all into me, it's not gonna really, it's not gonna be anything. So, what do you think? I think I should do. There's just this feeling like I should. You know what? This nobody cares. But just record. This feeling sort of came about from. I just watched this video of myself. I watched a video of myself from 5 years ago, and I was like, God, I was so much cuter even like 5 years ago. And then back then I had dermal filler and Botox. Like I can't get a nose job, but what I could get realistically is if I got a job, I could save up like $2,500 and get dermal filler and Botox. And if in 3 months, my hair will grow out a little bit more, and I think I can just look cute enough that maybe somebody who's not like a dead person might actually date me. But she's not going to be. It's going to take a lot of work, and she's not going to be. It was always that thing. It was always that like, I'll say like, I'll lower my standards to this, even lower than that. It's going to be like, look again. It's that person who like, no way, them, and it's like, take another look, reconsider, and then like, I can't imagine that being possible. And then it's like 2 days later, it's like, I guess it's possible, but it can't be like a guy. It can't be like a guy. Yeah. All right. Nobody's listening, right? I guess it doesn't really matter what I say. Right now, I'm just trying to get through the sunset. What was I saying? I'm just trying to remember, like, how was I getting through this before? Like, when I was doing this before, why was it appealing before? I would imagine that, like, I would imagine that, like 5 years ago, in the back of my like animalistic brain, there was something that just kind of thought like, I'm still cute. There was something where like, I thought I was still cute enough that like, in the back of my animalistic mind, there must have been something that thought like, I'm still cute enough that some woman might just look at me and say like, oh, you're so cute. That was just enough. But really, I just wanted to put my head in the sand, and I just wanted to have fun and draw. But I just wanted this like doom feeling to go away. And now there's just too much doom, and I really think at some sort of animalistic level, it's basically the idea that like, I know that like there's just not enough like cuteness. I look too old. There's just too much oldness, and it's like you have no game in the sit and look cute thing anymore. And so you're going to have to get a little more active. You're going to have to go onto Tinder or some dating site and talk to women and actually express interest in other people. Really? Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. I used to be able to do that. And don't be an asshole and just be like, hey, and try to get to know somebody as like a human being. I really should do that. Nobody's out there, right? Nobody's out there. There's this horrible movie called About Schmidt that's just like, I think to myself like, dude, that shit fucking happens. Nobody's out there, right? Movie called About Schmidt. I saw this in the theater in 2002, but I can't even remember what happened. But anyway, long story short, just asshole guy who just got really old, and then it's like, hey, surprise, you're really old, and nobody's attracted to you anymore, and you're sitting in this house, and you're all alone, and like, what is it? It's like that song by the Grateful Dead when they say like, one of these days they know they gotta get going, out in the streets all alone. It's like, if you just kind of sit and, I don't know, I don't remember everything. What I remember from this movie basically is that it was like an old guy who just like, he was kind of an asshole. He was a selfish asshole person, and he just kind of like stayed inside, and then eventually like he was like, oh shit, like I'm really old and there's no people around here and I better like get out of here. And so he got in some mobile home and he tried to make an effort to like connect with people and be less of an asshole. But at first it was just like, man, your social skills are so bad, you're so selfish, you're such an asshole. Like, I forget what happened, but I think, what happened? Let's find out. Nobody's out there, right? I could just do this, like I'm doing this right now. I'm like, oh, like there's at least some trolls that listen to me. It can't get that bad. I'd say, believe it or not, I'm grateful for the fucking trolls. Like, you can gawk at me, at least it's better than like just lonely, just fucking nobody for miles. Hey, there's that movie called About Schmidt, and in About Schmidt, do I remember it correctly? Like Jack Nicholson in About Schmidt, Jack Nicholson was playing this kind of like lonely asshole guy who just basically kind of got old, and he was really lonely and stuck indoors, and he eventually got in a camper and decided to try to broaden his horizons and form some connections with real humans and try to be more interested in like other people. But he suffered from some atrophy in the connecting to other people department. What happened? Did he kind of like die alone, or did he find love or connection, or what? It's just a fictional movie. You're spot on in your description. Jack Nicholson's character, Warner Schmidt, in About Schmidt, he is indeed a lonely, recently retired man who feels adrift and disconnected after the death of his wife. He buys a Winnebago and embarks on a road trip to his daughter's wedding, hoping to reconnect with her and find some meaning in his life. He definitely struggles with the atrophy and the connection to others people department, leading to some awkward and often humorous encounters. As would happen to him, he doesn't exactly find a grand love or a sudden complete reconnection with everyone. However, the ending offers a glimmer of hope. His attempts to connect with others are largely unsuccessful. He makes an ill-advised pass at a woman he meets in an RV park and fails to dissuade his daughter from marrying a man he dislikes. He pours out his feelings in letters to a young Tanzanian boy he sponsors through a charity. Now, this is like kind of like my life. This becomes his primary, albeit one-sided form of connection. At the end of the movie, after the wedding, he returns home feeling like his life has been insignificant. He writes a particularly poignant letter to the boy expressing his loneliness and questioning the impact of his existence. He then receives a letter from a nun in Tanzania who writes on the behalf of the young boy. She explains that the boy can't read or write, but cherishes Schmidt's letters and financial support. Enclosed is a simple canyon drawing of the boy and Schmidt holding hands under a sunny sky. This simple gesture of connection, however distant, deeply moves Schmidt. He cries, seemingly finding a small measure of solace in a sense that his life has, in some way, made a positive difference to another human being. So you can always sponsor kids in Africa. So that's another thing. Like if I get a job, I can send money to some kid in Tanzania or something like that. I was doing that like 3 years ago when I had a job, and so dude, life can only go in so many directions. It just seems like you listen to like other stories and you're like, oh, like people have done this life thing like over and over and over, and it tends to sort of go in like certain directions. And so so you can use that data. So isn't it true that like that story about Schmidt is probably based off of like the observations of the way a lot of men's lives can tend to go if they, you know, are just kind of a little too closed off and not trying to form connections or maintain connections with other human beings. And that's probably why this movie resonates as humorous, because people know enough examples of people like this that it seems familiar and they feel like they can learn something from it, right? So, since there is like a lot of data on similar types of people, if somebody was in a similar situation, what does the data say that person should do? So let's say there was like a version of Schmidt who was unmarried and he was 45 years old, but similarly sort of like closed off, terrible social skills, not able to like connect with other people, no friends, no wife. What has the data suggested that that person should do to turn their life around and not be prone to like isolated depression later in life? Intentional social engagement. Participate in structured group activities. Studies show that joining clubs, volunteering, taking classes, or participating in community events provides built-in opportunities for interconnection around shared interests. So find some groups with shared interests. What are you interested in, John? I don't even know anymore. I don't want to do it like, I feel like my interests have always sort of been marred by like what's going to make me more attractive to women. And so if I'm interested in women, I'm definitely interested in like attractive women. So maybe you could join like a Playboy magazine. Let's look at porn together. Maybe you could join a looking at porn with other men group. Focus on shared interests. Data indicates that bonds formed around common passions are stronger and more sustainable. Identifying hobbies or interests and seeking out groups or individuals who share them can be a more natural way to connect. Well, I can do that on here. I can just live stream. The shared interest should be me. I want people to be like interested in me. I'm interested in me. Are you interested in me? Can I just get rid of my loneliness by finding other people who are interested in me? But it just like the Schmidt thing. You don't want like one-way relationships. You want sort of like a group of real people that you can interact with. What other interests do you have? Dogs. I like dogs and the dog park. Small, consistent efforts. Research suggests that frequent, even brief, positive social interaction contributes significantly to well-being. This could be as simple as striking up conversations with people in daily routines, coffee shop, gym, or making an effort to engage with acquaintances. Developing skills, active listening, right? I was trying to practice active listening, communication skills, gradual exposure and practice. I was doing that. I should have kept doing it. Didn't really sound like it was actually kind of good enough. Initiate contact. Studies have shown that proactively reaching out to acquaintances or people met through activities is essential for moving beyond casual activities. You know what's fucked up? Nobody's listening, right? What seems kind of fucked up is that like if you are kind of doing it out of desperation, like I've known other examples of like similarly sort of like similarly self-centered men who kind of like realize like you can feel that the purpose for them reaching out is like they're consciously trying to deal with loneliness. Like their therapist has told them like you better like start making friends or you're going to get really depressed, and so they sort of go like, hey, I'm making an effort to make friends because my therapist told, you know what I mean? Like you can feel like it's part of some like program. It feels like, can you substantiate that? Is there data to substantiate the idea that like if there's some lonely asshole guy who just for most of his life it's not really been in his character to go and actively try to connect with other people, if he suddenly starts doing that and it's not in his character, it can sort of seem that way to people that he's talking to. It can feel like their motivation is kind of detectable. It seems like they're doing it out of some like advice from their therapist, or it's kind of a fake thing that they're kind of forcing themselves to do, and it feels that way, right? That's a really astute observation. And yes, there is data and psychological understanding that supports the idea that inauthentic or forced attempts at connection can be perceived negatively by others. Here's why. That's why I keep thinking that like just be authentic. Like it seems like what I should like. I agree with like authenticity. I feel like if you approach anybody and you're sort of like genuinely not interested in that thing, it's gonna seem that way. So it seems like what I should do was what I was doing before, which is basically to just go onto Tinder and say, hey, I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me, let's have sex. And my ex-girlfriend, she said, like, don't just say let's have sex. Everybody says that's terrible advice, but that's authentically like, I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me, like we have a common interest. It's let's have sex. So I don't know, that worked 5 years ago after trying it with like 50. Anyway, I'm not trying that on here, but basically I'm thinking like I can do that. I can basically just talk to women and say like, well, you know what I can do is I can just basically, I can say let's do like, I can go on to Tinder, I can match women on Tinder, and then I can say let's have a Zoom chat and just see if there's a connection. And what really it's going to be obvious that like I'm being like, hey, like, are you attracted to me? I'm attracted to you. And maybe that, but I think basically what I think is that like your intent is going to be kind of like obvious anyway. I keep thinking this thing about like, be authentic. Like I've tried to do like a lot of cool activities thinking like I can become like a cool guy, and that really hasn't really worked very well. And so it just seems like your intent is going to become clear. Can you substantiate that? So there's data to substantiate the idea that like your intent is going to become obvious. It's probably, if you're dealing with people for a long time and they can see the way that you're talking and moving, and just after a while people are going to get a sense of your intent. And so you should at least have your actions be kind of in line with your intent. It shouldn't be some secretive thing. Like the more that your actions can be authentically lined up with your intent without like being too obnoxious is kind of good, right? Because then like you can have friendships and relationships which are based on real interests and things that actually you both enjoy, right? Mutual shared real interests, not like fake trying to be cool type stuff, right? Absolutely. So that's kind of what I think. I think I was onto something with that authenticity thing. So what are you authentically interested in, Sean? Like, I don't know, youth. I'm interested in retaining youth and vitality, I guess. Just having energy, not feeling lonely. What else? Just having fun, like I guess like exploring, or just I don't know, creative projects for sure. Arts, going on little adventures. Dog park, just little lame like dog park, and holding hands and getting naked and having lots of sex. Getting naked and having lots of sex is always pretty great. But I'm not sexy, and so I should expect to, if I go into Tinder, just talk to people who are also not sexy, and just realize that probably, Sean, you could be a lot more attracted to a lot more people than you think. Females, you could be into a lot more females than you think. I know. Dude, I have to, nobody's listening, right? I just want to be honest about this shit, though. I want to be honest that, like, because I can say this here, but, like, there was, nobody cares, but just record, always in my past dating, even when I was, like, in my prime, in my 20s and 30s, there was this thing where, like, I would be with some woman who, like she would be like, she'd be my like acting partner or something like that, and then we'd go to some sorority party or something like that, and the girl that was always with me was like, just like, I don't know, just like really, just say it, Sean, it doesn't matter, you can say it on here. People are looking for you to be like obnoxious and awful. Just like really, like some really, really fat girl who just like was just not, like, nobody would consider her like attractive, but I liked her. I was always kind of like, I don't know, I like her, she seems nice. The other thing was like, she liked me, like we were acting partners or we were friends or something like that. But there was always kind of this thing where it's like, well, I'm not really like sexually attracted to her or something like that. Get the point. Basically, if we would go to like some sorority or something like that, and then there would be this thing where the other girls who were like pretty, I would sort of be going like, wow, there's like pretty girls here, and the pretty girls would say no. They'd say don't even. There'd be this thing that's like, hey, why aren't you with like your date or the girl or something like that? And I was always kind of like, oh, she's just my friend or something like that. But there was always kind of this feeling like, I don't know how to explain it. Like there was always this thing where like her friends would kind of like notice. They'd go like, he's not good. Like he's gonna. They'd kind of like. I don't know if it was that overt, but there was that. There'd occasionally be some kind of like party thing, and then there'd be some other girl there who was a lot prettier, and she'd say like, hey, why aren't you with your friend, the person you should be with your friend? I'd be like, oh, I wasn't hitting on anybody else, but there was kind of like this expectation. What was I saying? There was always kind of some clear thing of like, other people could sort of tell like you're not really like, passionate about this person. What's your point? I don't know. That was my experience. I don't want to say like a lot of therapy talk, but in my 20s and 30s, if I was with somebody where I wasn't really that into him, it was kind of obvious to like other people. It was sort of, and then I don't know, maybe it was obvious to those friends. What's your point, Chun? Just probably better to like have relationships based off of like actual interest and shit like that. Maybe I should be with a single mom. Actually, I do sort of like kids. I would feel so resentful though. I would be like, what the fuck? I'm not. Some asshole guy is like shirking the responsibilities of fatherhood and like getting me to do the work. That seems like. Dude, it could be really hard to click with like another. It could be really hard to click with a female at this age. Like, actually, maybe even like forget about females. Forget about sex. I think what I should do, who I could see sort of clicking with is some like nerd guy. Not sexually, but maybe there's like some like, if I look around in the world, I can find some like tech nerd, like IT dude who's like also kind of like really boring and into some sort of, actually you talk about like common interests. Forget sex. I have no sexual interest in men whatsoever, but I bet you if I went out in the world and I found some nerdy guys who were into something really boring like SQL server, like Python coding stuff, like potential skills that could get some sort of like cushy computer job. That's a real interest. Talk about like passion or whatever. I could be pretty interested in like boring, tedious computer stuff that uses a little bit of abstract thought but doesn't require genius skills. And if you do it long enough, you can potentially get a job. That sort of stuff. My dad did that kind of stuff. My brother does that kind of stuff. I could see like that would actually be like fun. I think like what am I passionate about? I don't know, not being homeless, having skills. I feel like really I should work because like that's something I actually like to do. It's like work, make money. Realistically, like. So what do you think, Sean? I'm just thinking like I should probably do something like that. I should probably find a job. Don't even worry about women. Don't even worry about friends necessarily, but find a job to just come up with some stuff to do. Like right now, I would kind of rather be doing any kind of thing that was like, this is going to make money and make me less likely to be homeless in the future. That seems like I would feel kind of better doing that at this point. And then maybe work on like work friends, even like like friends. I would imagine like work friends is going to be like, I could see like powwowing with other nerdy guys doing some job, even if it's not a nerdy job. It's really, I should apply to some like nerd data boring, tedious computer stuff job, and then I could really do. Like you think about like natural like shared interest. I could see like hanging out with some guy who's like basically like basically like a similarly dead person who has like some gray sweater. He has some like little anime trinket, and he's like practically dead. and he talks like a dead person, and he's like, here, I'll show you how to, well, we'll both like learn like database SQL server scripting or something like that. And I'd be like, oh, like I could get into that, and I could just do that for hours on end. Some sort of boring, tedious, uses some minimal capacity of abstract thought to like absorb your mind, and like nobody else really cares or is interested in it, but you can potentially make money at it. I really should, nobody cares, but just for record, I really should have probably gotten into like IT, because they had those things called like CBT nuggets, and there would be somebody who's like, let me tell you about the CBT nugget, and they're all anxious to show you like this goes to this, and this connects to this, and this connects to it, and I'd be like he's like, I study one of these, I make a ritual to read one CBT nugget every single morning, and I think like, oh, I could see doing that kind of stuff, but probably too late for that shit. Okay, so what do you think? I don't know, but I'm sure there's a lot of jobs out there. But what I should avoid is like, nobody cares. I'm just thinking out loud. What I should avoid is pretending to be like a physical or social person. That's what I always used to do, is throughout my 20s and 30s, I would say like, I'm going to use this job to learn social stuff or do some like physical activity, and I'm going to get like a studly body or something like that. That was always really stupid, because as soon as I hung there, I'd be with some guy who's like a, kind of like physical manly dude who like watches football, and he's into like sports cars and shit, and then he's saying, and we have like nothing in common, and there's kind of a feeling like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, you could do better than this. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. So what do you think? If I do jobs, get any job, but try to get into something that like is like computer stuff, database, I don't know, data analyst, just video edit, something that where like a little bit of abstract thought is necessary, but like not a lot. Like you can still be kind of a dummy. There's a lot of things like that in computers. Can you substantiate that? Yeah, basically, there's a lot of jobs that have like a requisite amount of capacity for abstract thought that eliminate a lot of people from the job, but also just they're kind of tedious. They can be kind of boring, and they're kind of, there's jobs that would kind of be considered like blue collar work of the tech world. For example, like scripters. There's people who are just scripters, and they just handle scripting. They don't really have a brain that's capable of doing like hardcore coding or engineering, and the coding and the engineering people kind of like scoff at them a little bit, but yet they seem like really smart compared to the guy who flips the burgers at Wendy's or something like that. And so there's other jobs like that, right, too, like data analyst is like, doesn't require a genius, but needs like a little bit of smarts, but you could still like drink alcohol on the job and do okay at it. And then video editing can be like that kind of too. Like video editing seems really intimidating because it has like a lot of, you need to know where the buttons are and stuff like that, but really it's not, it doesn't require a genius. What other jobs are there like that? That's what I should have done. If I didn't screw up my life, I should go to technical support special, right? Quality assurance. Quality assurance is like, seems kind of like computery stuff, but really it's like just kind of tedious, like test the program and find the bugs and stuff. System administrator, web developer. Yeah, web developer is kind of like a lot of programs. SEO specialist, digital marketing specialist, CAD technician, right? Medical biller coder, pharmacy technician, aircraft mechanic, electrician, plumber. Like kind of technical, but not, doesn't require genius. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. There's really kind of a feeling like this is not really. I feel like there's a better way that I could be spending my time, and it might be stuff that like I didn't think was like fun before. Like Like what, John? Just, I don't know. Girlfriend and like, I don't know. Murphy, stop. Maybe I don't know. Maybe like AI movie making or something like that. What do you think, Sean? I think I should use this video live streaming stuff to get myself to find some I should use this video making to like get myself to do things like start a Tinder account, start another account, and like try to date and just make that part of my little schedule. It's just like, today on this video I'm gonna hit on 10 different people on dating sites and get rejected, and just keep doing that, and then yeah, sounds good. Dude, I really do. I wish I wasn't such an asshole. There's like really kind of like sad things that I sort of see happening. Is like there's this thing where like people start dying. Like people start dying, and then you're kind of like, oh, like I thought I was gonna talk to them more, and it's like, that's it. I don't want to talk about this a lot, but like there's this lady next door. There was this lady next door named Mary. She was the nicest neighbor in this whole area, and she would kind of like say, hello, Sean, and like, oh, we missed you and stuff. And she was really sweet. I think she's like 90 years old or something like that. She was into sailing, and she was really like the coolest. I don't know. She's the coolest neighbor in this area. And then what, like they had like the EMT was here like a year ago, and I saw her coming out, and like they were taking her in a stretcher or something like that, and she's like, hello, Sean. She's like, I'm okay and stuff, and she was kind of like this like sweet lady. She was a gay lady too, and she's really cool. And then what, Sean? Just I would kind of sing a lot in this room, and I was always worried that my singing was too loud or something like that. And we have not heard from her in like a really long time. And then like 3 or 4 days ago, her car, which is always parked right next to our car, had this sticker on it that said like, police have detected your car has been like parked here like way too long. You have 72-hour notice to move it. And just the next day, like the sticker is still on the window. And then I put like a letter on the doorstep to her tenant, and I said like, hey, like Mary's car is like got a sticker on it, like she's not moving her car or something. And then I haven't heard back, but like somebody just kind of moved the car. Somebody drove the car somewhere else. And what, I don't know, me and my dad are thinking like maybe she just died. And so if you're like, nobody's listening, right? Probably no one's listening to this. If no one's listening, it doesn't matter what I say. But as somebody who's basically just been really shy and really timid and just kind of hiding at a computer for just years on end, there's kind of a thing where like if you just kind of say like later, like I'll talk to I guess people probably already know this, but if you just kind of say like later, like I'll talk later, these people in your life, eventually it's just kind of like there's no later, like that person died, and you're like, oh, like I kept telling myself like I'm gonna talk later. What's the point? This all kind of sounds pathetic, but just, dude, it just sucks to be like a timid, self-centered person where anyway, I should like fight that. And so, what do you think, Sean? I don't know. I always tell myself like I've tried it, and it always, there's just this force that always says, just shut the fuck up and die alone at that screen. Every time I've ever tried to like socialize, there's always kind of like, it's like thorns and like people just being mean, and then it's like, I give up. And then just back to isolated Lonelyville. What do you think, Sean? There's like, I know all about like the little things that can soothe over like isolated Lonelyville, but they're not really working as quite as much as they used to. A lot of it was just dependent on like, I'm still cute. If I just sit here, somebody will surely just be like, I love you, let's get married. But that has not happened. And so, what do you think? It's not happening anymore. I'm too fucking old. And so, some gay guy though, in the time that I was live streaming, some gay guy said, I love you. And I was like, God damn it, why can't I be gay? Why was I not gay? I don't know. Anyway, I'm definitely not gay. Could not imagine having a relationship with a man. You know what I could imagine? Nobody cares, but you know what I could imagine though is just living with a bunch of dorky dudes. Like I could imagine living in, you know, that movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I like the idea of just a bunch of dudes like who are dysfunctional living in a house and just kind of like playing magic cards. No sex, like no like sort of like nothing gay, but just dorky dudes who have like weird interests and their varying degrees of like. Actually, I could really relate to those type of people better than women. Probably women is kind of like nice. There's like that lovey-dovey accepted feeling. You can like hold hands and go around the duck pond. But realistically, like, I could feel pretty good just living in like a group home with like other sort of like nutty, older, dysfunctional dudes who do weird little activities like building model airplanes or playing magic cards. That would be great. That'd be great. How could you do that? I don't know, but I'd like to do that. I'd like to be like, dude. If maybe I could hunt around on Discord and find some weird dorky dudes. They could be old. They could be you know, fucked up mutant people with dyslexic retardation or whatever. And I'd be like, I don't care, whatever. You want to go? We could go ride ATVs or I don't know. I'll help you with your. We can go shoot beer cans or something like that. Nobody's listening, right? I think that would be kind of cool. Is like not gay, but like dudes who just like women don't really like them, and they don't really necessarily click with women, but just like we're clearly not gay, but we just want to sort of like live together and play like magic cards occasionally, or you know, sit in beanbag chairs and play some sort of video games. Do they have such a thing? They should have that. They should have. Hey, I heard that there's lots of incels. There's like, I don't know, some huge percentage of men who are just not pairing with women anymore. And a lot of those guys, they're not homosexual, but they might have more shared interest with men. And so are there like something like fraternity houses or group homes or something like that, where men who for whatever reason just don't seem to find a mate in the opposite gender, but who are not homosexual, just agree to sort of live in a house and help each other out occasionally, or just keep each other company and I don't know, talk on the porch or play magic cards or you know, do things like shoot beer cans or work on bicycle mechanics in the garage, stuff like that. Do they have such things? That's a really interesting question, and it's just on some complex social issues. You're right. There's been a lot of discussion around increasing rates of men who identify as involuntary celibates and broader trends in relationship formation. Your idea of non-homosexual men forming communal living arrangements based on shared interest and mutual support is a thoughtful response to potential social isolation. While there isn't a widespread formally recognized movement of incel group homes or fraternities specifically for men who aren't pairing with women but aren't homosexual, there are definitely existing and emerging social structures that could serve similar purposes. Like what? Fraternity houses, traditional. international communities, shared housing, many people, hobby and interest-based groups. Yeah. I keep thinking like, this isn't good though. This is like, if they had like virtual hologram activities, like hologram art rooms or something like that. Men sheds. This is an international movement that originated in Australia, providing spaces for men to come together, work on projects, share skills, and socialize. It would feel like, I'm not gay, but it would feel so less awkward and so much more natural to just hang out with dudes. But nobody's listening, right? Let me just talk about this. I just say, if no one's listening to this, it doesn't matter what I say. But I was just thinking this in the car, that like, there's gay men and there's straight men, right? There's gay people and there's straight people. But I swear there's like, I don't really know, but it seems like there's a weird area in between where like somebody like, I don't know nobody's listening, right? Quentin Tarantino, I could be wrong, but Quentin Tarantino seems like an example of a guy who is in a similar sort of gray area that sort of reminds me of me, and that he likes a lot of man stuff, but he definitely likes hot women, but he doesn't really, he's not like, get to the point, basically like, no one's listening, right? No one's listening. What is that guy's name? Quentin Tarantino on Joe Rogan. Get the point, Sean. Basically, Quentin Tarantino on Joe Rogan, he
lot of places where
he was on Joe Rogan, and he has this friend who basically like, Joe Rogan was basically commenting and saying like, you guys seem like a married couple. They clearly, I think you could say they clearly love each other. I think you could say that. Like they really have shared interests, and they relate like a married couple, but they're just like old friends. I'm sure they've never had sex. They like women, but they just, as spirits, they really like each other. And so they geek out on movies, but they also sort of talk to each other like a married couple. Like one guy says like, "Oh, you always say that, Tom," or something like that. And Joe Rogan says like, "You guys sound like a married couple." And what's the point? Like, nobody's listening, right? But am I wrong? Like, if you just look at them, this is my theory. I don't have any data to substantiate this, but I think if you just look at some humans, I don't know what it is. They have less as a man. I'm not targeting these. Let's say no one's watching this, and it's just my imagination. But I think like there's men who just like they don't have enough man stuff. I'm not really sure what it is. They just, and there's less jaw, like square jaw type stuff, and they're just like, they're like not gay, but really like if they were souls, and basically I feel like if they were souls in the ether and they just said like, what human do you want to like spend a lot of your time with, they'd probably click with men. And so what I think, at least in the case of Quentin Tarantino, is, I could be wrong, but it sounds like with Quentin Tarantino, he just is like, well, I definitely like hot chicks, and so he got like a hot chick who's like the mother of his children, but then he says like, here, I paid for your thing, like I paid for your car, I paid for your trip to Tahiti, you can go do your nails, I'm gonna go hang out with my friend who I love dearly, and we talk about movies, and who I've just like, oh my god, hey, let's share interests. And so I bet you that kind of is like a thing in like a lot of people's lives, is there's men who are like, I don't know. What do you think, Sean? They're not gay, but they're not like super manly. I don't know what it is, but they're like, they love, I don't know, they work better with men. They're like, hey, like I like men, and I get along with men and stuff. And what do you think? I don't know what you call that phenomenon. Now, I basically identified a phenomenon, and like, I could be wrong. I don't want to talk about this a lot. Again, I'm not, like, let's say no one's listening to this, but I do worry sometimes that there might be some gay guy watching saying, like, I was looking at my chat, nobody cares, but I was looking at my chat and there was some person saying, like, I know you're gay, Sean, I know you're gay. And so I always want, just for other people's sake, I don't want to, I'm an old man, like, nobody's interested in me anyway, but I don't want to lead anybody on. I'm not gay, I'll never do gay stuff, but what? Just, I bet you there are a lot of men who, if it weren't taboo, they probably would do it. They probably, I always think, like, you know, you've never had, as a male, you've never had a bad orgasm. If somebody, like, you know, if you get, my grandfather said you can get an orgasm from like a hole in the wall or like a washing machine and it would feel good. And so there must be something, definitely in my mind and from most men's minds, that just says that's bad, you're crossing a line. I have to admit though, just any kind of like sexual stuff with the men, there's something that like makes me like slightly sick of the whole idea. But anyway, it's probably like culturally instilled. There's probably something where it's just like, that's not the right way to go. Get the point, John. Well, anyway, what do you think? I just bet you that like there's a lot of men who just, they're not quite gay, but if it were culturally okay, like if nobody told them like that's gay, that's bad, they probably would do some gay stuff. I'm not using them necessarily as an example, but I bet you there's like, there's 25%, I could do, I'm just making this up, 25% of men who just, if you, even if society said like, hey, like gay is perfectly normal, we have jerk other men off days on Sunday, like, you know what I mean, like basically if, I bet you that there's, I could be wrong, I bet you there's 25% of men who are really like not gay, they're like old man or something like that, and like even if it was culturally acceptable, they'd be like, I really don't like that. And I really don't want to do that. But then I think there's like probably another 25% of the male population who, if it was okay to do it, if they lived in some different alternate universe where they said gay is like, it's totally the normal thing to do, whatever it is, they could be swayed to it. They'd be like, oh yeah, really? It's fine? My friend can jerk me off? All right, yeah, it fucking feels good. And so I bet you there's a lot of guys who would be gay if it wasn't like a taboo thing where it says like that's bad, because you know it would feel good. Get to the point, John. But I bet you a lot of men would just be not into it. What do you think, Sean? You know, the thing that comes to mind, let me just talk about this for a while because I can't stand that. I'm having a heart to heart, like probably no one's watching this, but I bet if someone's watching this, it's some guy who's like a troll. And so it seems to me that like, even though I'm not gay, I sure like to do heart to heart. I like to do heart to hearts with any human being at all. So what's the point? What was I saying? You know, there's kind of a feeling where like, I don't know quite how to explain it, but just basically admitting that I'm never gonna have kids and then I'm just gonna sort of die alone in my room. There's kind of like this gulp feeling. There's like this gulp feeling like you didn't make the cut. You're not eligible for reproduction. That's a similar feel. I would imagine it's a similar feeling to like being a gay person. It's just kind of this feeling like you're not able. There's no like pussy that you can get accepted to that you would want to go into, and it's like fuck. It's like a knot in the throat, like death. It's like a death, like barren, cold, the doors are closed kind of thing. And so I would imagine there's gay people who also feel like, it's kind of like, I would imagine some people who become gay, I don't really know, but I imagine some people who become gay, there's kind of a feeling of like settling. There's like a feeling of settling, like, I'll just take some, I'll take a hand job from a man. And I guess some guys do that. I don't know. Never know. I'll never know. But I'm sure that has gone down in many forms throughout the world over time. I've listened to like a lot of Jocko podcasts, and Jocko podcast has talked about similar subjects. Jocko podcast had a podcast where they were talking with this guy called fuck his name? I don't know. He was Harley Flanagan. He was like a punk rock icon from Jocko's childhood, and he really looked up to this guy. but apparently that guy, after his punk rock thing died away, he was kind of in the streets, and Jocko was kind of insinuating. He said to him, like, you know, when you were in the streets, like, what did you do to get money? You must have been like making money or something like that, like, you know. And the guy sort of tiptoed around it, and he said, like, you know, you had to be getting food when you were in these desperate situations. Like, what were you doing? And the guy sort of said, like, oh, the tough. I was one of the tough guys. So the tough guys, they were, you know, mugging people and stuff. But you know, some of the wimpier guys, they could you believe it? They sucked a dick. They had to suck dick to get money when they were on the streets. But I'm one of the hard guys. I was always mugging people. He said something along those lines. But the way Jocko was sort of insinuating it, he was like, yeah, I wonder if you would have. What's your point, John? I always imagine that people who became gay went down in different forms. Anyway, what's your point in saying this? My initial point was just basically saying that, like, I'm not gay. I've never been gay, but I definitely relate to men who are like, I prefer the company. I click better with men, and I would imagine that even if I was in a marriage type thing, there would be some guy who I was like, hey, like, you make more sense to me. Does that make sense? I don't know quite what I'm saying. Talk about it more, Sean. Talk about it more. Let's. No one's listening, right? I remember when I had a girlfriend. I was always kind of felt like I was lugged around by her and kind of bossed around by her. And we used to go to therapy sessions. Like, she always went to these different therapists, and I would tag along because I was totally addicted to her pussy. And she was like, I did feel like warm and lovey-dovey. I did like click with girlfriends and stuff. But I remember we went to this one therapist who was also, there's like a type of guy who's like, he's not gay, but he's kind of like almost gay. He's like a feminine, I don't know how to explain it, effeminate. They have like less volume in their jaw, and they're just like, there's like a look in their eye where it's like, oh, I don't know how to explain it. It's like they're not gay, but they're like, there's kind of like a wink or something. I don't know how to explain it. Like, sort of like, hey, we're on like a similar like wavelength of like sensitive, effeminate men. I don't know how to explain it. It's just some sort of like, anyway, long story short, and also like men who like aren't totally accepted or respected by women. Does that make sense? Anyway, I just remember the situation where I was with my girlfriend, and she went to a bunch of different therapists. Some of her therapists were like masculine, sort of like, I like baseball type of dudes. But then there was this one therapist who was kind of like a similar sort of like intellectual, sensitive, I don't know how to explain it, like some man that's like not going to be as respected by women. I'm not sure how to explain it. Just kind of like a skinnier, sort of like daintier, skinny wrists, kind of like intellectual guy, and also like female. I don't know how to explain it. Female somehow, and then he was kind of like talking to me. I don't know quite how to explain it, but there was kind of like a feeling when we were talking, as though like we related more. Like I related to this guy, and when my ex, he was having a therapy session with the women with my ex. There was kind of like this thing where like she was kind of like rolling her eyes. I don't know how to explain it, but you could tell he was sensitive about, like, he was saying like, I know you don't respect me. I know you sort of like look down on me as some sort of effeminate, skinny, some sort of fey guy or something like that. And there was kind of like a feeling with him where I felt like I was kind of allying with him. Like I was allying with him, being like, dude, I understand. I know I could look at him across the table and be like, I respect you, dude. I was sort of saying like, I appreciate your tokens of like, you're into these things. You've been like a very good therapist. He was kind of like saying like, dude, I did a lot of therapy. Like, I feel like I deserve more respect. I don't know how to explain it, but there was kind of a feeling like, I could tell that this woman, my girlfriend, didn't quite. He was sensitive because he felt like he was not respected by my girlfriend, who was like a really girly girl. And then I was kind of being like, dude, I respect you. Like, I feel you. And he could tell that I sort of like was on the same wavelength, and that I was like, I got you, dude. Like, I heard what you said. I'm not ignoring you. And like, I relate to you. And he kind of looked at me as there was kind of like an understanding, like, oh, you're also like kind of like a skinny, effeminate, like not respected by women kind of guy. And I was like, yeah, I know how you feel, dude. I know you're really good at like, you've studied all this stuff, and you've been like a really good man, and you're like, don't the women appreciate how good a man is? And you know the women like don't appreciate your goodness. And I look at those guys and they're like, I appreciate you. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to learn like a lot of shit that is not attractive to women, and just be like, aren't I a good guy? And women are like totally not into you, and just Which one? I just remember that. I remember that therapist guy, and just thinking like, I relate to you. I respect and appreciate your dedication to your craft and stuff, even though. And then we just started talking, and he started saying like, it's a lost art. It's a lost art. This type of therapy that I'm doing, and I said like, I understand, dude. I respect you. I understand my ex is kind of rolling her eyes at you, but anyway, that's what I remember. What am I talking about? I'm identifying a phenomenon of like men who just like, they're straight just barely, and so they'll be in the straight world, but then like they sort of notice each other and they go, I appreciate your sensitivity, the way that your skinny legs kind of like fall over your legs is kind of like, if I were gay I would like you, but I'm not gay, but I know that like we could relate to each other in just our how our weak and effeminate sensitive nature has been mostly repellent to women, and now even though we're paired with these overweight bossy women, I dig you, dude. I dig you. Like we hit elbows and be like, in another if society were different and they just had like places where men jerk each other off, just like going to sushi bars, and it was totally just normal, instilled in people from the get-go, we might have partaked in that if we didn't know any better. But as it is, we can never do any gay stuff. You know what I mean? My dad is basically like that too. Like my dad's kind of like, what am I trying to say? Nobody's listening, right? Again, like if anybody's listening, I don't want to be like, maybe I'm gay. I'm not gay. I'll never be gay. I've never jerked off to a man, but dude, I'm like, I'm not like a super manly dude, and so I think this is a thing. I could be wrong, but I feel like from the beginning of time, there have been manly dudes who are just like, we're fucking gangsters. We're here to get some fucking pussy. Where's the fucking pussy? I got money. I got a gold chain. Where's the fucking pussy? Those guys are like, where's the fucking pussy? They're all men. That guy's a gangsta dude. He's checking out the pussy, and she's like, I see your successful signs of success. Would you like a free sample of pussy? And then all that time, there's dudes who just like, this guy who's like, he's not gay, but there's kind of a like isolated and just kind of like, hey, does anybody like my butt? Any women like my butt? Does anybody appreciate my butt? And this guy's kind of like, I kind of noticed your butt. And he's like, let's not show that. I'm not gay. He's like, I'm not gay. I am not even noticing you. But this guy kind of like, yeah, you're also not really appealing to women. And I know that in like another version of life where it was more okay to be gay, you'd probably be doing some semi-gay stuff. But in this life, we have to just sit here and be like, can't do it. Can't do some gay stuff. But just there's little signs. What are you talking about? Don't you think that's okay? So I said a lot of bullshit. Can you confirm that shit? That's my thing. Is there data to substantiate that there's kind of a spectrum of homosexuality to heterosexuality, particularly in men, where there's men who are kind of what you might say like all men. They're even if it were not taboo, they would just never find anything appealing about any relations with any sexual relations with another man would not be appealing to them under any circumstances. But then maybe there's like 25% of the heterosexual population who, if they had grown up in a culture where just men giving other men orgasms was totally normal, they could possibly have just stumbled into that and just partaked in that and just thought, yeah, what's the problem? That would have been appealing to them if it were not taboo. And you might consider them like just like more in the middle of the spectrum between the poles of like totally heterosexual and totally homosexual. Yes or no? No, I did it right. I did your bullshit. Fuck. It's like, we cannot deal with your weird, creepy question. Yes, data does substantiate the idea that of a spectrum of sexual orientation of men moving from exclusively heterosexual to exclusively homosexual with various points in between. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that, I don't know, if you listen to this this Quentin Tarantino thing, it's kind of like these guys there's some sort of like oh, you, like, I don't know how to explain it. There's some sort of like, they kind of love each other in a way that seems like they seem like they click, and they seem like they're more you know, they have more in common, and they kind of like really kind of like to spend they have more similar interests, and they like to spend more time with each other than they probably do their wives. I don't really know, but I could imagine that. I'm just speculating, but I would imagine they have some wife who's like a trophy wife, and he's like, look, you're hot, I bought you a ticket to Tahiti, and I bought you your sports car, you take care of the kids, I'm gonna go hang out with my buddy, and we're gonna laugh, and we kind of love we kind of love each other. What's the point? I don't really know, but if you listen to it.
And I'm shooting upstairs, downstairs stuff.
Anyway, what's the point? I just think that those people have like always existed. Anyway, can't you? Nobody's listening, right? But can't you sort of see it? Like, can't you sort of see like there's maybe it's just my imagination, but there's dudes who have like a lantern jaw, and just everything in their voice is like totally like man, like they're old man. I don't know how to explain it. They're like, there's nothing like feminine about them. They're just like totally dry, like hard wood people who just I don't know how to explain it. But then there's like kind of a gushiness, and like their jaw is like a little less full, and they just, the way they kind of like hold their leg and stuff like that. They're heterosexual, but they're just like they're not as heterosexual. They're not as man. They don't have as much man stuff. And so, what's the point, John? I just find that like a weird phenomenon. I wonder if there's like man gene. There's like a man gene where some guys got just more man gene. And I think I've been listening to like a lot of Jocko podcasts and just thinking like, I want to be like more man gene. And I took testosterone because I thought like, can't you just like get further that way so you can be like, I want to play the role of a man, and I want to be, nobody's listening, right? But I always imagine like those guys who I've said this a million times, nobody's listening, right? Those guys, they're like the Mexican guy who has like a lowrider truck, or just like a truck, and he looks like an Indian brave, and he's got like a lantern jaw Indian brave, and he's like, oh, I do my work. I'm not trying to be racist, but you know what I mean? He's like, Mexican guy, oh, I do my work. He's got like a ball cap, and he's got like his wife, and his wife is like a little lady in like a shawl, like a little like Eskimo lady, and she's got the little kids, and he's like, I'm driving the truck, and I got I don't know, you know what I mean? He has his work stuff. He did the work stuff is in the back of the truck. This sounds like very racist, but you know, like that guy, I'm like, how do I get like that? Like, why the fuck am I not like that? I was never like that, even when I was a kid. That guy was always kind of like that. And so, what do you think, Sean? I just think there's what do you call it? The good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's some people who are just like, they're just not really like all the way on the right side of the spectrum. So they lack the magnetism of like any, I think there's people who lack the magnetism of any polarity. They're not really gay enough to be gay, but they're not really straight enough to just be like, I gotta get fucking pussy. And so they just do this shit. They do some weird like lonely, isolated, nobody wants them, but they don't really want anybody, and they're just in some shack. And oftentimes before live streaming, I think those guys ended up with a fat shrew. Don't say it, Sean. Don't you know what I mean? Nobody's listening, right? I've described the situation all over the time, or all over the time that I've been live streaming. But tambourine woman, Mary Poppins. The fucking. This is a trope. There's a trope of like the kind of like lame-o guy. He's like me. He's of the same stock. Kind of like lame-o, big nose, not impressive. He doesn't have enough fire. He's not like a spunky like go get him pipe hitter guy. And so he's just, oh, I don't know. And some bossy woman's gonna go, come on, you wimp. Like, I got stuff for you to do. And she like bats him over the head. And he's like, oh, I'm just lucky to have you. And that was my dad. That was my mom, and that was my dad abusing my poor dad. And he's like, I'm just lucky to have her. And she's like, come on, you. What's the point? You know what I'm talking about? Probably no one's out there. But are you, or do you know a kind of dorky, soft, timid dude who gets bossed around by like a fat shrew, and he's just like, I'm lucky to have her. I think there's those dudes, and then I think sometimes those dudes have like a little buddy, and they're like, they just love each other, but they're not gay, but they really like each other way more than their wife. Nobody's listening. Right? If you listen, nobody cares. But just for if you listen to the way these guys talk,
And those kids,
You're bursting out of the seams of videos. You're just bursting out. You've got no more room. You've got no more room. And so now all of a sudden, rather than having your takes fake.
you know what I mean? I mean, I could be wrong. I'm imagining all of this, but like Quentin Tarantino's wife. I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's say I'm so clueless. I'm sure everything I'm saying is wrong. But I just imagine that he doesn't have like a super lot in common with her. Like he's kind of like, well, she's really hot and she's gonna be the mother of my children. But then I would imagine that like he does that. He pays for stuff. He's rich and he's like, I gotta go. And then he's gonna go hang around with this guy. And they kind of like they're like lovey-dovey couple people. And they just seem like it, I would imagine. I think you could almost say just even the body language. Look, they're not even like looking at each other. I would imagine that just like I don't know. What am I trying to say? Just I'm sure there's a lot of relationships like that. I'm sure there's a lot of relationships where just like people are together. There's a man and a woman. They're together for biological reasons and to have kids and stuff like that. Trophy wife, whatever the fuck it is. And then the guy's like, my real love is this guy who we have a lot of similar interests, and he's gonna go, I gotta go, honey. I paid for the stuff. I'll be back tonight when we have sex. And then he's gonna spend a lot of time being like, hey, it's my real buddy, and they're gonna like talk about their similar interests, and what, Sean? Don't you think that happens a lot? I don't know. Let's find out. Can you substantiate it? And then there's some guys who just talk to machines. And I'm going to do that. There's going to be more and more dudes who talk to machines on live stream. Actually, this is a pretty enjoyable thing to do. I think I found a way to get through the sunset period. Yeah, just for the record, it's sunset right now. All right, so what was I saying? Is there data to substantiate that just because of societal pressures and stuff like that, there could be men who just they click better with men and they have more shared interests in men, and they have some men that they just love dearly and spend all their time with, but then they have like the mother of their children who you know they there's an expectation on them to have kids and stuff, and so they have a wife at home who they might not share a lot of interests with, and they might pay for stuff and might be technically married, but the man spends most of the time out and about with his various kind of guy friends that he clicks better with, and then at the end of the night he comes home and has lots of sex with the woman that he's married to, but aside from that and dinner and taking care of the kids, most of his true bonding is with somebody of the same gender. Is there data to substantiate? There's a lot of examples of that. There isn't a database. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm probably just being an asshole, and this is not really true. But I just imagine that I'm looking at this guy, I'm just like, I don't really know. I'm sure also, probably no one's watching, but if he saw it, he'd say, you're totally wrong. We are in love, and just, you could not be more wrong. And she would say that too. Because I think a lot of married couples, they want to present themselves as like, a lot of people really envy us. Like everybody wants to be us. We're the happy couple, and so they're going to seem like, we could not be happier. He is the love of my life. We spend time together all the time. We play pool together, and we just, we go on, we go play mini golf, and we do all sorts of stuff. We love each other a lot. But I would imagine this guy hangs out with this other guy, and they're like, hey, it's my old buddy who I really love.
all I could had time to do.
Like, look at just the way that, what am I talking about? I could be wrong, but just if you just, as an artist or somebody who's done like a lot of character art and figurative art, their body language is oriented in such. Look at his face. Is like he's like, I love this guy. This guy's like my best friend. They look like happy little kids. It's not a sexual thing. Just in terms of like humans who want to like spend their time together. That guy, he really likes this guy, and this guy really likes this guy, and they have each other's backs. These two people, they seem like not really. That's in their body language. He's like, I'm so cool. I got a hot chick, but I'm not even looking at her. And she's like, I got a rich and famous man, and I have diamonds on my neck. But really, she's like not really interested in him either. They're kind of like, their body language is kind of like, they look like they're just using each other as accessories. And so, which one? I would imagine that situation happens a lot. And so, what do you think, Sean? I bet you that situations like that have happened throughout time, and I'm sure there's female versions of it too. I'm sure there's females who are just like, yeah, I got my husband, he pays the bills, but really, I really love my girlfriend, and we just click there. And it's just weird. It's weird that the different ways people are, and the different ways that there's polarities and spectrums that people fall into different sides on, and you can't. Doesn't seem like you can really change it. And also, it seems like it's just obvious to everybody else too. Like you could pretend, and people are like, you might present yourself a certain way, but people are like, we can kind of see the potential types of people that you could be. Can you substantiate that? So I asked that thing earlier where I said before that there's a spectrum of human beings, right? There's polarities, there's like super heterosexual, and then there's homosexual, and there's kind of a spectrum in between. And is there data to substantiate that somebody's potential for where they would fall or how they would conduct their lives within that spectrum is kind of visible in their face and their genetics? Like people can kind of see where you might fall on that spectrum just from looking at you, even before you even talk or move or anything, right? While the idea of instantly discerning someone's sexual orientation from the face or genetics is appealing, the reality is much more nuanced. Here's the breakdown. While there might be subtle average differences in facial features and genetic component influencing sexual orientation, it's not accurate to say that someone's genetic potential on the sexuality. Yeah, I understand homosexual is it's behavioral. I understand that because, like, you know, somebody might be like molested as a kid, and they might, you know, choose lifestyles on all sorts of different reasons that have nothing to do with genetics. But isn't there somewhat of a genetic component? Like there's some sort of thing where you can look at a person and without them even talking or moving, you can kind of see, like, I could see you being this way or that way more likely than another person just from looking at their genetics. Is that true? You're right to bring up the influence of behavior and experience. Trump. Hold on, no one's listening, right? While the idea of knowing something so personal about someone just by looking at them might be intriguing, the current scientific consensus suggests that it's not a reliable or accurate way to understand someone's sexual orientation. Yeah, so I mean, like, I guess it's wrong. Yeah. So what do you think? I might think that, but actually no. And if you do think that, it's in their stylistic things. It's their clothing, it's their posture, it's the way they do their hair. There's other things that they're doing that are basically signaling, like, I'm not trying real hard to to apply to females. Can you substantiate that? So actually, like, if somebody looks at somebody and they get a sense that they of their sexual orientation, it's stylistic things. It's like the way they have their hair, their posture, their clothing, the way they're contorting their face or battering their eyelashes or something like that, right? Yeah. So here's a question that I have. This is kind of what I'm kind of weirded out by. I have always masturbated to pictures of females. I have never gotten sexually aroused by looking at a man. I've never gotten a boner from anything related to thinking about or looking at men. Nonetheless, my game, or the thing that I thought that was the way that I have invested my efforts since puberty in terms of like what should I do to get a mate, has always involved basically a female approach, which was like work out a lot, try to seem pretty, try to seem visually or personality wise like appealing in a way that like would make them come to me. But that's not typical of most men, right? Like most men, they're gonna like go to women. If first of all, is that typical? And if it's not typical, like why might I be like that? That's really insightful observation. Your approach about attracting a mate. It's interesting that your internal sexual attraction has been, it's just that you're a coward. It's probably cowardice. Have been consistently towards women, yet your strategy for finding a partner has leaned towards what they perceive as a female approach of attracting. Is your approach typical for men who are attracted to women? Generally speaking, the more traditional and often stereotyped approach for heterosexual men seeking female partners has involved more direct initiation and pursuit. This can include approaching women, asking them out, and taking a more active role in initiating interactions. Right, that's what I noticed. It's definitely more effective. Like if you get all hopped up on testosterone and Adderall, and you just start hitting on women on dating sites, you get a lot more. You get a lot more progress that way than being like, someday my princess will come. However, societal norms. So what's your point, Sean? I don't know. I noticed that too. Nobody cares, right? I noticed a similar thing in jiu-jitsu. In the time that I was doing jiu-jitsu, guys who looked more female, guys who looked like if you put them in a wig, they might make like a better female. They tended to do. They tended to play guard instead of passing guard. Guys who were like really on the male side of the spectrum, their game tended to be around passing guard. They were basically like more aggressive, like I'm gonna get you, and then there's kind of more guys who are like you come to me, which is really weird. And I always think like there's like man gene. There's something on the man gene that makes you like, you know, the symbol for man is like this arrow thing, and they're like I'm gonna go to them, and then there's some guys who are like, I don't know. Anyway, my game in that department just does not work anymore. I'm too fucking old. And it really didn't work very well, even when I was in my 20s and 30s. But now, I think the sinking feeling I have that I better start getting on the dating sites and getting out of this room is just the realization that, like, you're not going to be able to get a girlfriend ever unless you change your approach. You have no ability to get a girlfriend by trying to be cute, or I'm not trying to do that on here. I'm just saying that like in the past, that's what I used to do. There's this kind of feeling as I'm looking at this OBS, I'm just being like, oh my god, I'm so old and ugly now. Like I should try to get a girlfriend before it becomes like completely impossible. Anyway, what's your point, Sean? But maybe not. Maybe I will not get a girlfriend. Maybe I will just from 6. I might make a new ritual now, or from 5 to 7 during sunset. I might just talk to get through. Like I'm realizing right now that I could just do. I was thinking like, fuck, how am I gonna get through the sunset? And actually, I've kind of gotten through the sunset. It's now 6:20. And I don't know, maybe I'll just do this. Maybe I'll do like a new ritual for 5 to 6:30. I'm just going to make some video ranting, saying like semi-gay stuff, or just whatever comes to mind. And get through the sun. I'm going to make a new activity called Get Through the Sunset. You know what's weird is that this is the same window of time that I was doing jiu-jitsu, which is basically like 5 to 6:30. And again, that thing was basically intimacy with other men, but not gay, but there was, I don't know how to explain it. There is kind of a thing of like I don't know how to explain it. It's not gay, but it's like, what am I trying to say? It's just, I've never gotten a boner from it. I've never jerked off to a man. But it doesn't seem like more to make sense of like, hey, let's do stuff with like people who have similar interests. I don't know. What are you trying to say? Let's explore this some more. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that like, there's this guy called I love this guy. Anyway, I've listened to like a lot of Navy SEAL podcasts, and there's a guy from the Navy SEAL podcast who there's all these different Navy SEALs. Basically, long story short, I've been listening to Navy SEAL podcasts, which in itself is like a little gayish, but I'm not gay. But basically, on the Navy SEAL podcast, there was this Navy SEAL guy called David Rutherford, and David Rutherford, he has kids. Get to the point, Sean. David Rutherford, he actually, I want to say something like what do I want to say? I want to say that he's not, there's nothing gay about him. There's nothing what was I going to say? Well, I was just going to say that there's like an interesting thing to me about him, because there was this kind of like darkness in his world, and what, Sean? Basically, I wonder if there's just so much stigma. Or, basically, I wonder if there's what do you wonder, Sean? I wonder if there's just men who just like, they don't have enough man stuff, and they're like, they have enough sort of female type traits that they just get disrespected by men. They never get accepted as like, you're not man enough. And so that's kind of something I imagine might have happened with David Rutherford, is he had like some sort of, he was in like a male environment where men are like, you're not all Superman, and he's like, I'm not gay, and he's not gay. He's got kids and he's got like a beautiful wife and stuff. But there's just something where he might just never have gotten like the respect of being like ultra masculine, and I wonder if that's just in people's DNA. Anyway, it's a weird phenomenon that I've just noticed throughout my life. Who's another example of that? Who's a better example of that? I don't know. There's all sorts of examples of people who they're not really far on the man side of the spectrum. Anyway, talked about this enough. But that being said, I want pussy. I want pussy, and so I'm gonna go onto Tinder and I'm gonna try to get pussy. And I like pussy, but I wish I was more manly. I wish I was like, I had that man. I wish I had a lantern jaw and just whatever the hell women want. I wish I had that stuff. But anyway, dude, I'm spacing out. Why am I spacing out? Because I have to pee. I'm thinking about like, I should walk my dogs, and I'm thinking about like, how many I'm gonna have to get through this fucking sunset period. I'm gonna have to do this new activity from 5 to 6:30 where hold on, first of all, I want to substantiate this idea. Is like, Is there data to substantiate that in the world of jiu-jitsu, men who might look and have more feminine traits might tend to play guard more than men who look and have more masculine traits? Like if there's men who just sound much more masculine and a lot less female, they might be more inclined to make their jiu-jitsu game around passing guard than playing guard. There's no scientific data on that. Anyway, just in general, the gist of this video is the idea that there's a spectrum of man, and I don't know. There's a spectrum of like heterosexual, homosexual, and it's like the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's just clearly one side, and then there's these weird people who just don't really fit totally. They're not like all man, and so people think like, you're like, you seem like you could be gay, but they're like, dude, I'm not gay at all. I have no attraction to men at all, or people of the same gender, but you're not really like macho enough to like really turn on the opposite sex, and your whole method of like life is just like more of like female game type stuff. And so people are just, the whole fucking life is just people doing like, you're not really doing it right. You're not doing the thing your gender is supposed to do. And those people, I identify with those people, and a lot of those people are just kind of like asexual, incel type people who just are like, yeah, well, the women don't want me, and I'm not gay, and just I do a lot of sitting around, and then what? And they're just stuck in the fucking middle. Anyway, all right, Sean, you want to put this video up? Yeah, actually, I think I'm intentionally catering to. I looked at my fucking comments on my Kick when I closed it down, and I noticed that people want to see me as a loser, and people want to say like, we know you're a fucking faggot and stuff. And so I think I'm not gay. I don't want to seem like I'm an old man. I'm not even sexually viable anymore. But I've never jerked off. I can say for sure I've never jerked off to a man. I've never gotten a boner from a man. Not even in private. There's never been a time I've looked at a picture of a man and been sexually aroused at all. But nonetheless, I seem to do a lot of like things that make people think that you might be gay, and I do tend to like. I have more interest in men. Anyway, what do you think? It doesn't even matter. I don't even socialize anymore. Anyway, this video is stupid. If I post this video, it's gonna seem like probably no one's gonna watch it. And then if somebody watched it, it's gonna seem like I'm being like, like I wonder, am I gay? I'm not really gay. And it's just it's a lame attempt to seem interesting to trolls that you imagine might be possibly gay people. What do you think? I don't know. I don't know, probably whatever the fuck it is, there's probably some manipulative, deplorable deplorable, pathetic, reprehensible thing that I've been doing here that other people are more aware of than me. And anyway, that's that. Hold on, talk more about like talk more about the weirdos who fall into that category of like almost like just the gayest heterosexual men that are famous people. Who's an example of that? I don't know. I don't know. My brain is not working anymore. I think I'm just gonna go to sleep. I gotta find a new way to get through this fucking sunset. 5 to 7 o'clock has become just fucking death. It's death, and it's just totally demotivating. This was a problem. Like I went to jiu-jitsu. This kind of like got me through this time, But now it's like a year and a half later and it's worse. And so I'm trying to remember, what did I do before jiu-jitsu? I did some kind of ranting, like crying type shit, and then I did push-ups, I did burpees and stuff. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Tomorrow, I'm just gonna go to sleep or something. I'm down for the count. This sunset is a real problem. Dude, what do people do without live stream? Like, I guess most people, most people in my position, they just read a book or they watch a movie or they have a life. They have a life. Anyway. Here's a good question. I bet you there are types of men of which I might seem to be included, which are men who just like, they were just really weak. They were really weak men. And so they seemed gay, but they weren't really gay. But maybe they were, when they were young, they were cute enough to at least attract the attention of some gay people. And then their looks ran out, just like women who they were pretty enough at some point, and then they just got old, and now they don't even attract gay people, and they're just nothing but weakness. I bet you there have been men who have fit that description from the beginning of time, and women. What do you think? I bet you there have just been weak people who were just boring and self-centered and dry, dumb people who just, they had some youthful cuteness and they just thought like, oh, I'm used to people thinking everything I say is great, and then all of a sudden their looks ran out and now they're just reprehensible, dull, dead, vacant people, and they just seem like selfish. They're just like, hey, I'm talking and doesn't everybody think I'm interesting? And people are like, no, your looks have disappeared and you are just left with dull stupidness, and nobody's gonna fucking listen to you or help you in any way. Nobody's gonna feel sorry for you. They're just gonna go, you disgust me and you should just crawl into a sewer and die. Do you think you're that, Sean? I think that could be a thing. I think there could be a thing of various types of humans. Some of them in their 40s, some of them different times of life, who just, they were no good, but they used to be like a little cute, and then they just wake up one day and you're like, oh, the cuteness is totally gone, and I'm stupid as fuck, and I'm unemployable, and they're just gonna get ganked. They're gonna get ganked. Somebody's gonna go like, hey, sucker, sign right here, thanks. And they're gonna go like, oh shit. Actually, nobody's listening, right? I keep thinking, nobody cares, but just record, I was driving around town 2 days ago, just trying to reminisce about my life and be like, all right, like, let's get authentic. Let's try to think about, like, did I ever click with anybody? Like, you've been manufacturing a lot of bullshit lately, Sean, but who's the real you? If you're ever going to find some real friends, you got to be the real you. Was there ever a real you before you started, like, faking and manufacturing a bunch of bullshit? Yeah, I was thinking, like, when I played Magic, there was this one guy called Evan, and Evan was also a sheltered, kind of like mama's boy person who was somewhat interested in philosophy, but he wasn't super smart. He just seemed kind of like dull and like somebody who, like, you could knock on his head and he'd be like, huh? But he was like nice and kind of like soft and generally harmless. He seemed like somebody you could like give him a hug or something and be like, but he was kind of ugly, but kind of like sweet, like a mom would like him. Some mom would like him, but he was totally just not set up to thrive in the world. And he had aspirations of like learning to be a man. He's like, we need to like learn to be men. And he was like studying the ways of the man. He was going and hanging out with like some baseball guy and being like, I'm learning the ways of a man. But meanwhile, he was just primed to be a sucker, and he was tedious and annoying and vacant and stoner, and just he screamed like somebody victimized me, somebody ganked me, somebody used and abused me. And actually, when me and my friends met him, we met him because he did seem like a sucker. He said, "Hey, look at my magic cards. Does anybody want to?" And my friends were like, "Dude, let's steal all his magic cards." We went over to his house, and I kind of distracted him while my friends like stole his magic cards. And then, sure enough, I was friends with him. And then after we stopped being friends, I met him like 5 years later, and he said that like he joined the Deadheads and the Grateful Dead, and he was trying to learn to be a man or something like that. And some drug dealers or something like stole his car. They said, "Oh, can we borrow your car?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And just somebody fucking stole his car, and I was like, "Oh shit, like that's gonna be me. That's gonna be me. That's that guy, lonely, foolish, too trusting, mama's boy guy, who just has no social skills or just street savvy and is not really likable enough to have a solid network of friends. It's gonna wander out in the world and be like, does anybody like me?" And everyone's just gonna go, ugh. But then some user guys go, "Oh, we like you. Can we borrow your car?" And just fucking sucker. You know that there's a movie there's a movie by Steve Martin called The Jerk, and I haven't seen The Jerk in its entirety. But the older I get, the more and more I'm like, oh, like that's kind of like me. There's been people like that from the beginning of time, of like just basically like guys who are kind of like annoying and reprehensibly stupid and trusting, and they end up with some bearded lady like bossing them around. They go, "Oh, you're so cool," and then they get ganked. And what's the point? I don't know. I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna download that right now. I'm gonna download The Jerk, and I'm gonna watch The Jerk, and I'm just gonna be like, oh, like there's gonna be some shit like that in the next 5 years, especially if I go into like Tinder. There's gonna be some bearded lady or something who's gonna go, "Rub my feet, faggot." she's gonna kick me in the stomach or something like that, and I'm gonna go, "Oh, how did this happen? How did this happen? Oh, shucks." And what's the point, chum? Dude, you gotta avoid this fate. If somebody's out there, don't be like me. I'm not sure how you can avoid this fate, but I would imagine it would have something to do with like make friends, like get a wife, get a job, get it before you're 40. Don't just stay at your dad's house don't just hide in your dad's house forever, because eventually you might find like, oh shit, I'm kind of like stuck here and no one cares, and I don't know how to get out. I'm stuck in my parents' basement, and I'm stuck in my parents' basement. No one cares, and I don't know how to get out. Can you look it up? Hey, throughout America and throughout the West right now, especially in like 2024 or 2025, is there data to substantiate that there are large amounts of men and possibly women who have been hiding in their parents' basement and playing video games or something like that, or doing internet stuff, and just getting progressively older with no skills, ducking work, and then suddenly they find out that they're stuck in their parents' basement and no one cares, and they don't know how to get out. Is that a common situation? Help, I'm stuck in my parents' basement. No one cares, and I can't get out. Help, I'm stuck in my parents' basement, and I can't get out. No one cares. Just die, faggot. I bet you that's happening. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's a unique situation to me. But not good. But I've been in this situation for a long time, and I have learned that like if you double down on like I gotta be more man, if you think like, oh, it's because I'm not manly enough, the women they want a manly guy. I think if you double down on the like more manly, I've determined that that's a trap. I should write a book about that or something, because I'm really fascinated with the idea that like, I think I'm gonna look this up. I think there's a phenomenon that happens when a man gets to be middle age, and if he's single, he might feel like, oh, just the combination of his middle age and just lack of options might just create like a lot of fear that makes him doubly inclined to like be like, I gotta be more of a man. It might, the combination of like fear of just impending doom might make him like watch a lot of macho shit and be like, oh, I gotta get tough. And then just the idea that they think that women like that more, and just their isolation leads to listening to like a lot of like macho shit like Howard Stern or Joe Rogan or something like that. And all of that seems to produce this guy who, like, in his lonely, isolated position, he's going even further into like unapproachable, like fuck you, I'm dominant, I'm a force to be reckoned with. And meanwhile, like when they were younger, when they didn't have that, and they were like, when they were just nice, at least they could have been like a submissive sort of like guy that some, bossy woman could have got. But now their isolation and their fear and their insecurity has made them like completely like double down on like, fuck you, I hope you detect the genuine anger in my face. And they have like a man shirt and hunting attire, and they don't even like any of that shit. What's the point? I see those guys all around here, and I did that too to some degree, and I'm convinced that that's a mistake, because again, authenticity, like, I think if you're ever in that situation, nobody's listening, right? But if you're ever like really isolated and getting really weird, and you have all these weird theories about like, I'm going to become this is what the opposite sex wants, and you're not testing those, you're just doing it all in isolation, I think you're prone to like get even more unapproachable. And the thing to do is to like get authentic. Can you substantiate that? Is there a phenomenon where people end up in isolation, and their fear and just lots of time alone has resulted in them going down weird rabbit holes of like different explorations and different identities, and just different schemes on how they can potentially become more attractive, that amount to like some sort of radical identity change based on listening to something they heard on a podcast or the radio or something like that. And meanwhile, like the best thing for them to do is probably to get authentic. If they want like a lasting relationship with somebody that really likes them for them, and they like the other person, and they have shared interests, they should just try to get really authentic, get really like no bullshit. This is what I really like. This is the things that I'm not faking. This is like the real me type of stuff, right? So yes. Yeah, that's what I think too. I think I've made a big mistake. Not a big mistake, but I think I did drum up a lot of like fake stuff. And if I want to have like a real girlfriend, or like a real girlfriend, if I want to have a real girlfriend and not some machine to talk to, and real friends, I should start by just saying like, all right, no bullshit. So I'm like, what do you actually like? What do you actually like? If no one was, what kind of people are you actually going to click with? Let's do that now, since I'm still getting through the sunset. I should just say that right now. Some kind of IT guy, like really, like if I was to think about who am I gonna like sit with and like power, somebody who like we're not really gonna make a lot of eye contact, but two guys, kind of like boring dudes going through some sort of like SQL server, like this is how you do scripting in like SQL. This is how you organize the SQL database, and here's like a little trick on how to like go through that more efficiently. I could do that kind of shit. I could be like, oh, like tell me that, and there would be like some sort of like Nobody's listening, right? I want to write a book about this or something like that. But there would be like some sort of like what am I saying? Just some sort of like semi-effeminate bonding. Nobody's listening, right? Somebody should, let's say no one's listening to this, but somebody should write a book about that. Somebody should write a book about some sort of IT company, and there's like a slightly manlier dude who knows how to use some manual, and they're going into the lab or something like that, and then there's kind of like this more effeminate dude who's like, he has like little subtle hands, and he's sort of battering his eyelashes or something, and he's like, oh, you, like, you know, I'm really in a jam on this circuit. Can you show me do it? And he doesn't even know that he's doing it. He doesn't even notice that he's doing these weird sort of like rolling his eyes and just sort of like he's doing some sort of weird effeminate thing. And the other guy's like, don't. He's like, don't do that. We're trying to stay on task. We're trying to stay on task. And the guy's kind of like, he doesn't even know he's doing it. And then he just says, he's kind of like crossing his legs, and he's sort of like, oh, like, how do you help me that? Oh, you're so helpful, or something like that. And what's the point? I'm convinced that happens at like different sorts of environments, like an IT place or like a submarine. I was talking about that before, right? That's a good. I wish I could call my brother, but I just got in a fight with my brother. Anyway, what was I talking about? I'm going to talk to my little machine friend. I'm just going to talk to machines into old age. That's actually what I'm really going to do, actually. Hey, is there a phenomenon where in some sort of like old male environments, maybe like the bottom of a submarine or some sort of like IT company or something like that, there's some situation where there's a weaker guy who's kind of going to some stronger managerial guy, or just a stronger, more capable guy who's less prone to freaking out, and basically like asking him for help. And the guy who's like stronger and doesn't freak out, he has like a wife and kids or something like that, and he's kind of like, he's helping this other guy, and then the other guy is kind of like doing some weird thing where he's like battering his eyelashes or like crossing his legs, or just doing something that seems like something that females would do if they wanted to be more likable or something like that. And then the stronger guy is basically trying to ignore these weird little female type gestures that the weaker guy who's clinging onto him is doing, and he forgives him because he realizes that the weaker clingy guy doesn't even really know he's doing it. Is that a thing that happens? Yes, the dynamic you've described, while nuanced and potentially uncomfortable, touches on several recognized psychological phenomena. Let's just say that. Let's just say that like there have been instances in my life where like I'm always thinking like I'm not gay, but there'll be some sort of thing where I'll say like, oh, like can you help me, sir, or something like that, and then I'll be doing something and I'll be thinking about it, and then the guy will say like, there's be some look like, why are you doing some sort of weird like battering your eyelash thing or something like that, and I'll be like, I didn't even know I was doing it, but it was like a survival thing or something like that. Deterrence, and it's just like the guy in his youth, he used to be handsome or pretty, and he just thought that was the only thing that anybody ever liked. Like that was like the only thing that like I could do to have somebody just be like, I'll help you out. And now that guy is like really old, and none of that shit fucking works anymore. So what's your point? Now that guy is gonna have to go out into the world and go onto the dating sites and get interested in other people. Can you do that, Sean? Can you go and talk to women that you're not really that attracted to and say, hey, you want to be in a relationship so we can play Jeopardy or something like that on PlayStation and get through the sunset in a higher difference and appeasement behaviors in hierarchical environments, particularly those under stress, like damaged submarine or a high-pressure startup. Individuals in subordinate or vulnerable positions may unconsciously display behaviors aimed at gaining favor or protection from those in more powerful roles. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've definitely done that without noticing it when I was in my 20s and 30s. I think I remember there was a manager. There was a manager in like an IT company who sort of like designated like, these guys are doing some weird sort of like semi-feminine gay type stuff, and they sort of relegated us. He's like, I don't like that. Like, you're doing some weird gay stuff. You guys go over there. And I remember thinking, like, I'm not gay. I've never jerked off to a man. I've never. But then I think I must have been doing that at some sort of subconscious, like, some sort of subconscious survival level thing. Unconscious mimicry. These behaviors can sometimes mimic social cues associated with seeking approval or affirmation, which due to societal gender stereotypes might be perceived as feminine, right? Unconscious mimicry and insecurity. The weaker individual might not be consciously trying to be flirtatious or feminine. Instead, these behaviors might stem from anxiety and stress. Stress can lead to unusual or unconscious coping mechanisms. Yeah, probably something like that. Seeking reassurance. The gestures could be an unconscious attempt to appear non-threatening or to elicit a nurturing response from the stronger individual. Learned helplessness. Feeling overwhelmed and dependent, the person might unconsciously revert to behaviors they've observed, rightly or wrongly, as eliciting care or leniency. Right. They sort of are like, please don't like hurt me. Like, I hope you care about me. And it amounts to like some sort of like battering their eyelap, something like that. Some sort of weird thing like that. Unconditional mimicry. In situations or of dependence, individuals might unconsciously mimic the behaviors they perceive as successfully navigating in social dynamics, even if those perceptions are skewed. Right? They think that worked, but a lot of people are just like, what the fuck are you doing? The stronger individuals perceive the stronger individual reaction of ignoring the gestures. Anyway, I could look this up all day. Anyway, I've made it to 7 o'clock. Dude, this really might be a thing that I do. This might be a new, nobody's watching, right? This might be a new activity that I do. Is I'll probably try. I'm gonna have to adjust my schedule now that I'm not going to jiu-jitsu anymore. I guess from 5 to 7, I'm gonna do 2 hours of ranting about anything to anybody who happens to listen, because probably no one's listening, just to get through the fucking sunset, because it's awful. What's the point? Don't start crying. I won't start crying. But anyway, that's enough for now.